everyone. This is Genesis Prolo. On today's Student Spotlight series, I'm going to be featuring Brett Martin. How are you doing today?
I'm wonderful. Thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. So to learn about Brett Martin, he is actually in our Strength and Human Performance program. He currently is a military recruiting specialist for our university's admission and recruiting department, and he has served 6 years in the Texas Army National Guard Infantry. So thank you for serving for our country. I appreciate it.
Somebody's got to do it.
Exactly. Well, I'm curious, why did you choose to go into the Strength and Human Performance program?
Well, my entire life, I've been involved in athletics. I started playing football in third grade, all the way through graduation of high school, baseball, basketball, track, powerlifting. So I've always identified with sports and athletics. When I got into Parker and learning about all the programs, Strength and Human Performance is the one that I identified the most with. I got to work really closely with the program directors and just really enjoyed the knowledge that they had and wanted to kind of continue to grow the culture that is within the fitness industry. And I found that Strength and Human Performance would be the way to do that. So hopped into the bachelor's program. Game plan is to hop into the master's programs after this. So that's why.
Amazing. And that master as well. That's exciting.
Yes, it's a lot to put on the plate for sure. But, you know, with the goals in mind moving forward, I think that's the best route for me.
Awesome. And then currently, what can you say are your top 3 biggest highlights about the program you're in right now?
First of all, the fact that it's online, you know, being an employee as well as a student of the program, I travel all over the place talking to people from all over the country. And it's really cool to be able to, you know, talk about this program and let them know, like, hey, you don't have to relocate all the way to Texas. You know, if we go to a national convention in Las Vegas or something like that, the people there don't have to come all the way to Texas specifically for the Strength and Human Performance program. It's really cool because it's kind of a one-of-one program. You know, you have kinesiology, you have exercise science, things of that nature, but the Strength and Human Performance program really focuses more on the strength and conditioning side, more so than the injury prevention or injury rehabilitation. So if we find somebody, you know, in, like I said, Las Vegas, that is really interested in that exact portion of the program, they don't have to relocate all the way down here. So the fact that it's online is really great. The fact that it's asynchronous is awesome. It's catered specifically to people that have a full-time job like myself, that can still succeed and thrive in a college environment. And then just the people, all of the people that are in the fitness community, like I mentioned earlier, the culture, it's a good culture. And we have discussion posts within the online program. So that gives us an opportunity to talk to one another and to communicate with one another. It's also kind of another avenue of approach to learn from one another instead of just learning from the professor. So I'd say those are probably the top 3.
It sounds like it has great flexibility and Absolutely. It gives you that community to build those connections, Absolutely. Which is really beneficial for you.
100%.
And currently in your role as military recruiting specialist, talk about what you do in your current role.
So anybody that joins the military will tell you, you know, that their recruiter mostly got them into that process. And, you know, one of the recruiter's main questions when talking to somebody that's potentially going to enlist in the military is, you going to college? And if they say yes, maybe, or even no sometimes, well, I'll give it to you for free. So that's kind of their hook, line, and sinker. And some units and some branches are better than others, but oftentimes I find out when people complete their term and they hit their estimated time of service, they get out of the military and they have earned those benefits, but they do not make it an easy process out of as to how to obtain those benefits that they have earned. So my role, I was hired on to increase the military population, veteran population, current enlisted population here at Parker University. So my whole role is to go anywhere where I might find military bases, you know, any crowd population that might have a high veteran presence, and bring them into Parker, teach them how to use those benefits, talk to them about opportunities that we could offer them. You know, if their interests match up to what we offer, then I help guide them through that process. But I don't just recruit for military. I go to high schools, I go to hospitals. I just also have the knowledge to kind of recruit from that military pool. So that's what my role falls into.
And then how did you get into this current role?
So I was actually working at a gym. I started on the overnight shift and kind of worked my way up into management. I had a regular that came in, and she had some gripes and complaints, we'll say. And I listened to her gripes and complaints, analyzed what she had going on, came up with a solution. And, you know, went about her business, did her workout, and she came back up to the desk after she was finished, and she was like, "What are you doing?" I sat there and thought about it for a second. I was like, I don't really know. I just like being in a gym, and thought that it would be good to get paid to be here. Free gym membership for sure. So we talked for a little bit and kind of came up with a conclusion that she thought that I seemed to have some talents that were not being utilized to the maximum in a gym setting. So she actually used to work for Parker University, brought up the job board, saw the military recruiting specialist post online, and threw in the application. I thought it was a long shot. Hadn't earned my degree yet, had zero education and higher experience, but it landed it. And almost 3 years later, here we are. So
that's amazing. It shows that it's not always what's on a piece of paper, but who you are, your character, especially your military background. Absolutely. And your personality. From when I met Brett, I could tell he has very good communication, leadership skills, very well-rounded. So that's what it shows. It's not always what's on paper, guys. I mean, you can get those opportunities.
100%. What helped me a lot in the interview is I was talking about, you know, anybody can gain the product knowledge, because I am in a sales job. You know, I'm just selling education, college. So anybody can gain the product knowledge, but it's the ability that you can't teach. The ability to converse and communicate and build those relationships with people in order to gain common ground, and then, you know, kind of talk about the opportunities that we have that match their interests. So that's what helped me a lot.
I love to hear that. And then currently in your role, what can you say is like the most rewarding thing about it? I know you touched base on giving those students the resources they don't know that they had access to.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's the main thing. Like I said, most people coming into the military know that they are going to get the post 9/11 GI Bill, Hazelwood, you know, all of those benefits that they earned from the military, but they don't, like I said, they don't really teach you the best way to go about doing that. But even on the opposite side of it, when I am recruiting non-military members, just talking to them about their interests. You know, when somebody comes up to me, the first thing I ask them when they approach my table is, "What's your game plan? You know, what do you want to do with your life?" If they express interest in something that I have to offer them, great. We can have a full conversation, and I'd be more than happy to kind of show you the route that you need to take in order to obtain that. If they don't have anything, what's your backup plan? You know, it's never a bad idea to have a plan B. So then I start talking to them about opportunities that they may not have even ever thought of before. So just really providing the windows of opportunity to people. You know, it's a accelerated school for, you know, take our strength and human performance program, 3 years. And then bam, you're done. That's a year shorter than a bachelor's degree anywhere else. So just providing those windows of opportunities to people is always super rewarding. And then once you see them apply and see them start taking classes, that hits it home.
It definitely sounds like a fulfilling like role you're in right now. For
Absolutely.
Sure.
100%.
Amazing. And then going into your military experience, what did you learn from being in the Texas National Guard Infantry?
So Texas Army National Guard, you get people from all over the state, obviously, but then you also get people from all over the country coming in that were prior service, maybe stationed in North Carolina or California, coming from different branches. They'd, you know, exit active duty service and fall into the Texas Army National Guard just to continue that military service without having to be, you know, active all the time. So that really did teach me a lot about how to communicate with different types of people. You get different mindsets, you get different personalities. And and communication is extremely important in almost any work setting, but then you throw it into a military setting, an infantry setting. Communication is huge, where there's sometimes hundreds of people all trying to execute the same mission. We've all played the game of telephone, where I tell you something, you turn around and tell the next person something. And if one person messes it up, the whole mission is, way lower chance of success. So communication on that, and then flexibility. Flexibility is huge. I attempted to go to college once before. I'm enrolled now, and it did not go so well because I was still enlisted. I went to college for 6 semesters, and 4 out of those 6 semesters, I was told to drop everything, pack your bags, we're going over here or over there. So just flexibility, preparedness, just having a goal, moving towards that. But if you have, prior commitments to other things, you made that commitment, if it's time to go, it's time to roll. So those are probably the main things that I took away from that.
Sounds like you learned a lot.
I learned a lot.
That's always good.
It is.
Helps you grow.
Absolutely.
And in terms of getting involved in the military and joining, what made you decide, okay, I want to do this?
So it was kind of, I don't want to say an abrupt decision, but it's not something, some people, when they're 4 years old, ask, what do you want to be when you grow up? And they're like, oh, I want to join the military. That was never me. I always said cop, firefighter, or something like that, whatever the superheroes were on the cartoons that morning. But as I grew up, I started realizing that is a job that somebody has to do. And, and I realized it's not a job for everyone. There are tons of jobs across the country that neither you or I would want to do or be willing to do, but none of those were deterrents for me for the military. So the number one reason was I stepped up into that role so that, the people that I cared about or that I loved didn't have to. So like I said, somebody has to do it, and I was happy to be that person. And then I also had seen the amount of success that it would set you up for if conducted correctly. If you go through it properly and, keep your head on straight, learn as much as you can, you get what you get from the military based on how much you put into it. Right. So I went in with that mindset, learned as much as I possibly could, made as many connections and relationships as I possibly could, so that when I did get out, I would have myself set up for success. Now, not all plans go exactly according to how they're supposed to, but it did land me this job. So eternally grateful for it. Wouldn't change a thing.
And in what ways has the military shaped your character?
Character. So military, anybody will tell you, has its ups and downs. The highs are great and the lows suck. So it really did, going back to what I was just talking about, actually, not every plan goes exactly how it's supposed to go. So dealing with tough situations, conflict, going for a plan that you've been training for, whether it's studying for a test like the students here, might not always land. You might not always get that perfect 100, but it's okay because we have to learn from those mistakes. Chances are that's not going to be the last time you're in a scenario like that. So you take what you've learned from the previous ones and you kind of apply them moving forward. No one ever achieved anything from accepting the failure. You achieve by trying over and over again, and then taking what you've learned from the mistakes and the shortcomings and then applying them, and you'll eventually nail it one time. So that's what I really took from the military, was just perseverance, just roll with the punches, keep going, keep trying, don't accept failure, just keep pushing.
You have to.
You have to. Nobody lives a perfect life. You're gonna get knocked down every now and then. Just like they say, you got to get up, knock the dust off, and keep rolling.
Exactly. And as a current student here at Parker University, what value do you see that the university offers you and other students?
The value that they see in the students, just knowledge. We're an institution that, all the students come here, they come here to learn. and they come here to learn in something they're interested in and to pass that knowledge on to others, or to put that knowledge into practice, whether it's, a doctor of chiropractic learning from the best, staff and faculty that we have here, or whether it's a strength and human performance student that's wanting to learn and continue to move up into that faculty position to continue passing that on. So tradition is huge. We've been doing this for so long, and we've adapted to create new programs, and we're still creating new programs. So those are some of the values that I would definitely throw into that category.
And after, graduating from this program, what do you want to do? What are your goals? Where do you see yourself?
So multi-step process
yes.
here. So, and this plan's totally working out.
Yeah.
So the first step is to, like I said, we got to finish the bachelor's up first. Then we have to move into the master's. Once I complete that master's, and that should be wrapping up from right now in about 3 years' time. So fingers crossed for that.
Yes.
Move over into a faculty position for the Strength and Human Performance program. And then, like I talked about a couple times, just passing that knowledge on, creating that, or continuing that great culture in the fitness industry. But then I also have been thinking about the Human Performance Center that Parker is opening up.
Yes.
I'm not 100% sure as to what type of positions they're going to need filled over there within the Strength and Human Performance world. But if they have anything over there dedicated to research or personal training or anything of that nature, I think that would be a really good place for me to step into. So that's the game plan.
Sounds exciting.
And I'm very excited for it.
Awesome. Well, if there's one message you want to leave with our students and our audience, what would that message be?
If you want to join the military, do it. If you want to enroll in Parker University, do it. I know a guy for both of those.
Here we go.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, thank you.
Of course, it was my pleasure. Thank you.
Of course, it's been a wonderful conversation on today's Student Spotlight with Brett Martin. And stay tuned for the next one.